You are so close to being finished with your sock, it is absolutely ridiculous. The only thing left, well, besides weaving in some ends, is to weave together the top and the bottom half of your toe stitches. And you do that with what's called a Kitchener stitch. The very first thing you want to do is cut yourself a long tail, because that's what you're going to be doing your weaving with. And I can tell you, I'm going to have you start making the weaving stitches very, very loose and then go back and tighten them, because that is the secret to making Kitchener stitches look like all the rest of the stitches on your garment, or your sock in this case. So cut yourself a really ridiculously long piece of yarn still attached to your sock. Okay, great. Snip. Then the next thing you want to do is thread it onto a blunt needle, nice big blunt needle. So far so good, nothing too scary yet, right? So the next step is to put your needle tips right parallel to each other. Now what I like to do, you just pull them together. The yarn is coming from the back, as soon as I can get my finger on it. And what I like to do is I keep my finger in between these needle tips, because if I don't, I can squeeze this together and it's just too hard to maneuver in as I'm trying to weave. This works a lot better when it's apart. It also helps me remember to keep all of my stitches very loose as I am doing the actual weaving in and out. I'll go back and tighten them and make them match the fabric after I've done all the weaving. Okay, now it's time for the little rhyme. Okay, these are considered, this is your back stitch, this is your front stitch. Your yarn comes from the back, always moving underneath the needle tips. Okay, so the very first thing you do is you knit off, so which means you put this blunt needle through the stitch as if to knit and let it slide off the needle. Then you purl through, which means it stays on the needle and you can use your finger to keep it from slipping off of the needle. That's the purl through part, and then you bring your yarn all the way through. Easy enough. And see, I said I've got a really long tail. Sorry, but makes the point. Now see, I am not tightening this up. Do not pull it tight. Very, very loose. Now move to the back. Okay, and in the back it's just the opposite. In this case, you purl off, which means you go as if to purl and you take it off and you knit through. Okay, very, very easy. Pull the yarn all the way through. Now, easier said than done when you've got such a ridiculously long tail. Pull it through, again, very loose, and that's helped by having the finger stuck there, okay? Back to the front, and you've got some yarn coming through, but that's because you're weaving. You should. Then you're going to knit off, purl through, go to the back, and that is going to be where you do just the opposite. You purl off, and you knit through. Keep doing that until you have worked yourself down to the last two stitches. Remember, keep it all very, very loose. It's going to look really messy. Don't worry. Please let it be loose. Life will be a lot easier if you do that. Okay, let me get down to my last stitch and I'll show you what to do. Okay? When I said sloppy, I meant sloppy. Looks like loopy yarn, but just let it be, okay? We're down to the last two stitches. I am at the point where my yarn's coming from the back. I want to knit off, purl through. Okay, leave that last stitch on there. Don't think that it gets to jump off yet. Go back to the two in the back, purl off, knit through. Okay, and then you just go ahead and do the last stitches as though, you know, there was some sort of invisible stitch at the end. In other words, you're going to do a knit off. There's no purl through, but just knit off. And you're going to purl off. Okay, then you're going to pull the yarn through. Again, nice and loose, even this very last stitch, you want it to be loose. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to put my hand up into the sock, hold on, and I'm going to start at the far end. This is the end where I ended with the yarn sticking out, and this is the end where I started. And I just like putting my hand in here because I can see what I'm doing. And you can use a little crochet hook. I tend to just use the blunt needle because it's there, ready to go. So you find where you've just started doing the weaving, okay? And what you do, and you kind of have to move the stitches around. There we go. And you may have to play with it a little bit, but see, there's that. Lay it down. I can tell that this is the next one I need to pull. And I pull that, and you just keep pulling every single strand. This main loop will get bigger and bigger as you work your way along, but see, there's that, and you just kind of look at it. Don't pull it so tight that it doesn't match the rest of the fabric, but also don't leave it all sloppy. Now, sometimes at the end of the toes, I tend to pull the weaving a little tighter than normal just because my feet will be pushing on that. But in general, you want it to pretty much match the rest of your fabric. This is a stitch you use to weave in underarms if you're doing knitting in the round. Okay, see, now it starts getting a little more clear where you can go. And again, I ended up not even using the needle now. Now I just kind of use my finger and get in there and pull on that. And see, I just start pulling each one, and it's like magic. I love the Kitchener stitch. It's kind of like the heel turn. It's just darn fun, and it always, look how, see, you can't even tell anything was happening there. Again, I just pull that, and then I find, where's that next little stitch? See, it's not this one. This one does not pull. If you pull on a stitch and it doesn't pull the big one that you've got sitting there, you know you're not supposed to be pulling on that yet. See, so this is wrong, but if I pull on this one, look what happens. That starts, that means I've got the right one. Now maybe up, see, there you go. That's the next one to pull on. And you keep going all the way down until you get to the end, and then all you do is pull your yarn into the inside. What I do is I put the yarn back on my blunt needle, and I pull the yarn inside of the foot so that I can weave in the end. And you don't even know that those toes don't just automatically see. And when you get to the end, it can get a little, again, a little confusing. You have to think about what you want to be pulling on. But once you get there, up there it is, right there. There you go. Pull on that. Pull on the very last bit. You got to always have a little bit of this sticking out, but if you put the blunt needle on there, see, now you end up with a long string of yarn. So I usually go back. Now I don't need all that extra because I don't need it to be so sloppy. Cut that. Put my blunt needle, put it through the blunt needle, and then I can usually stick my hand back in here, and I can see where it's kind of sloppy at that end. I just pick a place, stick the needle through, pull it, and look how nice and tidy. I'll go back in and obviously weave that in to the back, but look, there's your toe. This is the top of your foot. You've done this lovely little bit of decreasing. You have woven your toe together with a Kitchener stitch, and you have knit your first sock. Now get started on the next one.